So I wanted to talk briefly about us getting in our own way. So I was doing this for years and years and years, getting in my own way a lot. And even though I would achieve achieve a good standard of, from people looking outside in would think, oh, she's doing well, she's achieving things, she's getting on. But it never felt enough, and it never felt like I was doing that well. And the reason for that is because there was this constant underlying sense of fear of, is it enough? How long will it last? All that sort of stuff. And I think that so what would happen with that is I would then get to a certain point and I would completely burn out. And it wasn't because of the amount of work I was doing or the actual physical act of doing stuff, which people often will see as being the issue with burnout. But it wasn't that. It was what was in my head. It was the expectation. It was that, I couldn't often just be satisfied with what was happening and how far I'd come because I always wanted more. And I always felt like I was able to do more, but I was just stuck in this kind of just this frozen place, really, of waiting for something, waiting. And so when I look back, what I was waiting for was motivation, was for the fear to go away, for the discomfort of whatever anything would bring to go away. And as I'm a human being, it never did. So things like motivation, motivation is made up. It's not a thing that we can grasp hold of. It's not a thing that we can go to the shop and buy. It'd be quite good if we could, wouldn't it? But we can't go and just get motivation from somewhere. It comes from within us. And it comes from our level of thinking. So it's no wonder that I never felt that motivated and everything felt like hard work, because in my head, there was so much of a negative critical dialogue of, well, it probably won't be enough anyway. And then when I've done that, I've got to do the next thing. And so no wonder I didn't feel motivated. And the thing is, we don't need to feel motivated. It's just an illusion. What we need to do is just take small steps in the right direction. So it's kind of, everything comes from nothing. So everything has to start somewhere. But yeah, if you're comparing yourself to someone who is at a certain point where you feel you want to be or you should be, then that's going to feel pretty disheartening. So straight away, you're on the back foot. Straight away, with comparing yourself to someone else that isn't your journey, that isn't you, you are ultimately putting yourself on the back foot. And that's definitely not going to help your motivation, because if your motivation is thought created, then you thinking a lot about how great someone else is doing and how you're not there, it makes sense, doesn't it? It's never going to create a level of motivation. The way I see it, it's like we're stood at the bottom of a mountain. If we're looking up, if we're stood at the bottom of a mountain, unless you run up mountains for fun, if you're stood at the bottom of a mountain and you're looking up to the top thinking, I've got to get up there, oh my word, it's disheartening. It's like, oh, how on earth am I going to get up there? And you can see someone at the top of the mountain waving, all satisfied. They've put their flag in and they've made it. Wow, if you look at them and think about them for long enough, you're going to probably feel pretty flat. And you're probably going to take up a lot of your energy doing that. When actually, even at the bottom of the mountain, there's a view to be had. There's a view to enjoy. There's an experience to be had at the bottom, at the middle, all the way up. And yeah, you may be striving for that experience of when you get to the top and that exhilaration. But what if there's a whole load of experience to be had on the way up? And I think for me, this was what was missing. And so if I use that analogy, the more okay I got with the fact that I'm starting at the bottom of the mountain, and the more I accepted just to be present at the bottom of the mountain, the more energized and the quicker I was able to get up to the top. And so what stopped happening for me is I wouldn't get just near the top or get to the top and then literally be flat out, burnt out, thinking, oh my goodness, I now need to hibernate for 3 months because I've exhausted myself. I don't. I feel ready for the next challenge, but I accept that I'm human and I'll have the rest time and the downtime when I feel like I need it. I listen to my body and listen to what's going on. And then I get on to the next thing. It's not all massive highs and lows for me anymore. It's much more consistent. And I enjoy the journey all the way along because it's mine. I know some people hate that word journey, but it is. It's an adventure or whatever you want to call it. Sometimes it's hard and challenging, but actually, for me, it's about how we see that view from down at the bottom of the mountain. It's how we handle the fact that we'd quite like to be at the top, but actually there's a whole big trek in between that doesn't have to be agonizing, relentless, constantly watching who's ahead of you and how well they're doing. We can enjoy that view all the way up. We can do that. We really can. And so I just wanted to share that because I know I compare myself to other people. Other people will compare themselves to me. And when we look at other people, we're only ever seeing them through our eyes and our perspective. So we might think they're doing great. And, from down at the bottom of that mountain, it looks like they've achieved the best and they're so exhilarated. And for all we know, they could be sat there thinking, I'm never, ever doing that again. That was horrendous. And I'm not enjoying this. Like, we just don't know. So the only thing we can be sure of is how we feel and our experience of it. So that's all we can focus on. That's all we've got, guys. That's literally all we've got. And it's enough. If we accept it and allow it to be enough, it's more than enough. So I just wanted to talk about that. I've recently been doing a fair bit around this, and I have created, or it's not quite finished, but created a little bit of a fun quiz around, are you getting in your own way? The answer is probably yes, because most of us do. And then with some ideas of steps that we can take or things that we can see that will help us to see things maybe from a slightly different perspective. So that will be going out probably in my next newsletter. So if you're not already on the weekly newsletter, I missed one this week. Apologies. I'm certainly not a spammer. You're lucky if one comes out once a week, but this will come out in the next newsletter. So I hope that was helpful, and I will catch up with you all very soon.